Hello everybody and welcome back to the Collector's Vault. My name is Mike. And yep, we're doing another video doing more counter arguments against Mr. David Jaffe. Apparently I was pronouncing his name wrong the entire time. It's not Jaffe, it's Jaffe. Anyway, yeah, second video because he makes another video that this is a long time coming. I'm way behind. I think this video came out maybe a week or so ago or 2 weeks ago. But I'm finally going to be going back at his re-review of the video because I have more points to talk about. There's more. I have all my notes right here on my phone. More points to kind of argue against his arguments about what people are saying, trying to defend Metroid, or more so of people trying to say, "Hey, Dave, your points are ridiculous. They don't make sense." Kind of like what my first video was. Yeah, so he didn't make his video in response to mine. This is just what he just said. This is what his response was to all the people commenting. So obviously, it's not like I don't care what his angry people on his stream were arguing about. It's more like I'm just talking about the points that I made, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing with this video that he made, because he really does try to make arguments about well. We'll see. Some of it is pretty hilarious. Some of it is actually pretty infuriating as well. I'm gonna try to speed through this because his video is pretty long, but I have all these points I'm gonna be jumping around to, so please bear with me, and I'll try to speak a little bit more clearly than last time. Again, I don't know. Maybe in that last video I was pretty worked up and I was stuttering. I apologize for that. I'm gonna try to speak a lot more slowly and clearly. So. Let's just begin. And first of all, I do want to give a language warning because in David's videos he tends to curse a lot. So, so parents, if your kids are watching this, it's not me cursing, it's him cursing. So yeah, language warning. All right, let's go to this part where he starts to talk about the controller again, and it's so infuriating.
Work needed, and playing with this default controller, which is what most people have, is really hard. It's hard to get the character to line up and stay lined up with these little nubs. People are like, well, yeah, you have to play with the Pro controller. It's dumb, Jaffe. Why are you playing with that controller? Oh, I don't know, because it's the controller that came with the Switch, and because this is a game that nowhere on the box, as far as I can tell, not that I saw a box, I downloaded it, said you should play this with the Pro controller. I don't know, maybe that's the reason, because I don't fucking live on the Reddit, Metroid subreddit or whatever, and it's like, oh, yeah, you gotta play that. How the fuck would anybody know this? How the fuck would anyone know this? Now, I'm not saying you're wrong that the game experience isn't improved drastically by playing with the Pro controller.
Alright, so I'm going to just jump in really quick. So again, he goes back to the argument about the controller and how it's hard to line up your shots, and oh, the box doesn't tell you to use the Pro controller. Again, I mentioned this in my last video. So, I don't know, I honestly don't know why he thinks this is a logical argument. Because, I don't know, I feel like he's the only one who is, again, he is of the small majority that had a problem with this. So, what do you mean that you can't play it with the controller, the Joy-Con controller that came with a Switch? You need to play this. And as he was saying, people are telling me I need to play it with a Pro controller. No, that's not an argument. You don't need to play with anything. There's no specific controller. It's personal preference. And I think he keeps going on about this.
But look what you're defending. You're not. You should say, here's the proper response. Absolutely, if the game shipped and it doesn't play well with the default controller, that's egg on our face, but we need to make it clear to the player, hey, you're probably going to have a better experience playing with a different controller. But to act like the onus is on the player to just magically know that the controller that Nintendo saw fit to ship with would work fine with Breath of the Wild, fine with Mario Odyssey, I should just know that? Give me a break. That's horseshit. And you know it's horseshit.
Again, I'm laughing because of the absurdity. Because he acts like this is a really logical argument, and oh, how can you defend this? What is there to defend? How can you say that, how are people, the players, magically supposed to know that the game doesn't play well with the Joy-Con controller, which is completely just, again, that's super subjective. that is not an objective fact. Go to my video and you can see the comments of plenty of people, again, not all, but plenty of people saying, I had no problem with the Joy-Con controller. Me personally, I didn't have a problem. Yes, I had a better experience with the Pro Controller, as I'm sure many players do, but that does not mean that, like, Nintendo's like, oh, well, yeah, like, it doesn't work well, or not, like, Nintendo, Mercury Steam, oh, yeah, it doesn't work well with the Joy-Con, you need this, but let's not tell people that, they just have to figure it out or learn for themselves. Like, no, Dave, like, it's so infuriating. It's a personal preference, and his argument that, like, oh, you have a better experience with the Pro Controller, you can say that about any game. Any game on the Switch, any game for any console that has, like, alternative controllers, like, it's a better experience with this, and yeah, I'm not talking about, like, kind of like the extra peripherals, like not the what's it called, the Switch Ring for the Switch Adventure, the Ring Fit Adventure. Like, yeah, that's completely different, but, like, this is just a different controller, like, I won't say layout, but a different design. It fits better in my hands. It fits better in my hands. I'm sure it fits better in a lot of other people's hands. It's not the correct way to play the game. Like, again, like, you can say that about any game. That, oh, it's like a better experience with that. Like, yeah, I'm starting to get all stuttery because I'm getting mad. But yeah, that, like, he's saying, how can you defend it? Like, how can you even defend your statement? That it's completely ridiculous. Anyway. I think his next point is coming up right here.
But let's get into the good stuff. It's always been this way. We're going to go back to this little thing because this is what the bulk of the complaints were. It's always been that way, Jack.
Yeah, so he's done with his controller crap. I think he might bring it up again, which, again, I'll talk about that. So now we're going back to the room because obviously he's getting a lot of complaints, or a lot of criticism, which, you know, is what it is. He's getting a lot of criticism over his trouble with this room. And man, there's so much to argue about this, and I can't wait to just wait and see what he says. It's pretty. I find it hysterical, and that's why I'm making this video.
Jaffe with Metroid, you get into dead ends, and you just have to shoot things. You have to. That's part of. It's not it's exploration. Going into a room and shooting wildly in hopes of opening up some random chamber is not exploration. That's sort of ADD or ADHD without taking your meds, right? And I take meds, so I'm not making fun of ADD people. But it's just like, what is that? But let's assume, it doesn't even matter. Let's assume you like that. I respect that. I think that's dumb, that mechanic, but so what? I mean, it's subjective. But let's assume.
Now he wants to talk about of things being subjective. So he's mad at, again, he's arguing that once again this is a room that is like a dead end, and he believes that there's nothing indicating that you have to shoot these blocks. Again, I talked about this in my last video. You should probably watch that first before you watch this one. So he's going to go into more detail about, like, well, how would anybody know to shoot this ceiling here? So what I want to talk about is you're not shooting randomly. Like, you come to this room, it technically is a dead end. Like, and there's so many things that are pointing in the direction of this, not only just this room, but there are things indicating that right where he is in this shot right here, that you could explore by shooting blocks, which the game clearly talks to you about or tells you at the beginning of the game. Even if this is your first Metroid game, the game does do its job of teaching you this is how you explore in the game. And it doesn't mean that just, like, randomly throughout the game there's like a blank piece of wall that you have to shoot and that's how you progress. There are goodies in those kind of locations, but in a spot like this where you are actually guided here, which again I mentioned before in my last video, this game does a great job at guiding you, like, through its level design to the next room you have to go to. And when you hit that dead end, that's where you have to start thinking, I wonder what I can shoot here. Is there a wall? Is there an obstacle? Is there a barricade? And there's one right here. Again, we'll go into more detail, but I think he's going to make another really dumb argument about Super Metroid.
Assume you like that. But your excuse that Metroid has always been that way, I mean, are you serious with that? You think that's a valid defense? What if someone's never played a Metroid? What if the last Metroid that you've played that's been 2D, like in my case, was Super Metroid back in '94? And in the meantime, I've had probably, God knows how many games that I've played in the meantime, including other games in the Metroidvania genre, which I very much enjoy, the Ori games and the SteamWorld Dig games and Castlevania games. Hell, I've been playing Castlevania on the fucking phone recently, the Grimoire, or whatever the fuck it is, and it's not as Metroid-y as you would expect because it's too linear. But anyway,
Then that's a big. All right,
I'm not opposed to Metroid or Castlevania, Metroidvania style design. But the idea of saying it's your fault, Jaffe, because that's how this particular series is, you don't think it's the game's job to let the player know every time they make a new game how the series is? What you're basically saying.
But like, it does do that. Again, it does show you at the beginning of the game that because you're right. If you are a new player, I'm sure the game wouldn't expect you, like, again, at least for a modern game, it wouldn't expect you to know that you can just shoot random blocks. The game, we'll get to that. We'll get to that point. The game does tell you it tells you about that. And it's funny. Shout out to, I don't remember your name. I'll put it up here on the screen somewhere. This guy did actually find a tweet, and if I can find the tweet, I'll put it up. That he talks about this on, David Jaffe talks about it on his Twitter account about like comparing this to Super Metroid. Like, oh, that was the last game I played. Apparently, he didn't even beat the game. So clearly, he had a tough time with that game, which does have similar puzzles or like exploration, where you come to a dead end and you gotta shoot a block. Like, that game has that. Just like this. And that game doesn't teach you about it. That's a game, again, and we'll talk about this again for arcade games. Super Metroid is a relatively arcade game in some ways that does not really teach you how to play the game. So if you come to a roadblock or a dead end, you're pretty much screwed unless you just know how to just start bombing and shooting everywhere. Or at least when you get to said dead end. Like, this game at least tells you about that stuff. Oh, gosh. And you didn't even beat the game. So clearly you don't like these. So clearly Metroid as a whole is just not for you. And again, no problem with that. But please stop saying that it's shit design. Just stop. I think now he starts comparing it to the old games. And this is where I get really mad. Because I did talk about this in my last video.
Think about this. What you're basically saying is you think it's totally valid if you're playing a game that if you don't go back to the NES or Super NES version and deal with the frustration there, well, that's fuck you then. I mean, seriously, that's what you're saying. You're saying if you don't know what we've made before, then go fuck yourself. That's good.
At no point is the game trying to tell you that. And let's be honest. Like I said in my last video, the game doesn't expect you to have to go back and play Metroid 1 and deal with the frustration of that game to think, so in the future games, this is what I have to do. Like, no. It definitely helps if you are a fan of the series and you played all these games, but at no point does the game expect you to go back and play those old games just to deal with the growing pains of exploration and how the game's designed to do that, to deal with this. It's definitely better for newcomers and modern gamers. What's the word? It's Nintendo uses this word all the time. It's like user friendly. Like I said, there's no reason to think like, oh, well, it's like you have to go and play Metroid 1, 2, and Super Metroid just to get used to this. Like, no, stop.
Design, come on, man. What a you gotta know that's terrible argument.
Your argument's terrible. Anyway, let's jump up a little. I think he talks about hand holding. Here we go. Right on here, I think.
You just want hand holding. Returnal, which I suck at and have not finished and probably never will, is one of my favorite games of the year. Last year, Demon Souls was one of my favorite, top 5 games of the year. And I sucked at that too, but I played it obsessively for a month. It was very hard. It was very brutal and punishing, but it was fair. Returnal, very hard, very brutal and punishing for me anyway, but it was fair. It was well designed. When I died in those games, 99% of the time, or when I got stuck, it was on me.
I'm sorry, right there, I got cut in. So he's trying to, by saying this, he means Dread's not fair. You were such in the minority of people who think this way. Because I think this is definitely a game where, like, yes, there might be some, like, cheeky moments, but, like, that's where, again, you have to just get good. You die a couple times, you learn the patterns of the enemies or whatever, and then you get better, and then you finally overcome the obstacle. So him to say that that's not fair, God, come on, like, this game even has a very generous checkpoint system. Back in the old Super Metroid, again, in the older games, if you died, you went right back to the save point. So at least this game, like, similar to Samus Returns, like, Mercury Steam was very generous in saying, okay, these games are quite challenging, we'll at least give you a checkpoint, so that way if you die at a boss, you go to, like, the entrance of where the boss room is, like, and I think if everything really is, like, every death that you do encounter, maybe it's just me, but, like, and again, I think most players do feel like, yep, that was my fault, I wasn't good enough, I had to get better. So, like, I love how he tries to act like a game like Demon Souls. And the funny thing is, he compares it to Demon Souls. I think that's a great game, and yeah, it's super challenging, but that's almost a game where you have to, like, almost break the game to beat certain bosses. And he's going to say that that's fair compared to Dread, that Dread's not fair. Like, what are you talking about, man? The majority of his points is him just trying to cover his own butt. Just make it seem like it's not my fault that I had a bad experience with this game. But what I'm saying is, like, his arguments are just so flawed, it's hysterical.
I will say Demon Souls has some obscure fucking lore, which is like, I don't know what some of these items do.
What about the enemies and the bosses? He's saying, oh, the items don't tell you what to do. Which, again, everything in Dread, for example, does tell you what all the items do, or the upgrades, so,
And it sucks that I had to rely on the internet to help me, but that was
Wait, I think you said
rare in that game.
So in that game, he did have to rely on the internet, but he's like, oh, it was rare. And I would say you can probably make the argument that, yeah, in Dread, there are some times where it's like, I am kind of stuck. Maybe I'll check the internet for advice or a guide. For some people, that's going to happen. And hey, I'm not going to say, oh, you're bad at this game. If you can admit, yeah, I got stuck, I went to the internet for help, and I kept playing, whatever. But someone like David Jaffe is going to say, that came up in Dread, so the game's bad. But you just said yourself that in Demon Souls that came up, even though it was rare, it came up and you're okay with it, but you're not okay with it in Dread? So then what's your argument? Like, literally, what is your argument at that point?
I literally have seen people in this game as an excuse going, oh, well, Jaffe, it's your problem, dude. If you're stuck, you should just use a guide or use the internet. I'm like, are you... Guide opened up.
And I'm thinking, like, okay, well, I can't speak for everyone who's been angrily commenting on his videos, but, like, if people are saying, oh, it's your fault, buy a guide, like, you shouldn't have to. If you are stuck, ask for help. And if the internet or a guide is the answer, so be it. But, like, no one's trying to defend that this is beyond, this is not a guide game. Again, I think he talks about it right here, and I'll go into detail.
In order to play. Fuck off. Fuck it. Of like, well, you need to have, a guide opened up in order to play. Fuck off.
No.
Fuck off. This is not, learning to play golf and you buy the golf clubs, but you're going to need a teacher and you're going to need to read some books. This is a fucking video game that is all inclusive. So no, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was the word inclusive. That was the word I was trying to think of earlier from him, inclusive. Anyway, so let me just say this right now. If he wants to think that Metroid Dread is a guide game, or like if you buy the game you must buy the guidebook, like, no, just stop. Like, look at the older games, like, again, like the NES era, maybe even up to like the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo era, maybe even, I don't know, whatever. But especially back in the old days, like games like the original Zelda, the original Metroid, those games were super difficult, and there was nothing telling you how to play the game. I think even Zelda, I think in the opening, like, somewhere like on the loading screen of Zelda, like it's somewhere there's like a little link icon saying, I would recommend buying the guide because they like, and I'm not trying to excuse the game, but that was just it was old. That's a game from 30 years ago. Those are guide games. They are that difficult and archaic that yes, it's probably better for you if you haven't played it before. You're gonna need a guide, whether that be a guidebook or the internet nowadays. You might need those to beat those games. You cannot make that argument for Dread. At least, if there are people out there that really don't know where they're going and they are just saying that's stuck, I'm sorry that you're in that minority of people because clearly the majority didn't have that problem. And I'm not saying that the minority of players who had this problem don't exist. All I'm saying is that does not mean that because of a minority of players got stuck, that this is a guide game where you have to buy the guide to beat the game. That's just, you can't state that as a fact. I'm sorry. Boo, 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 boo. Okay, now he starts talking about the room again. And, I love this argument.
No. People looking at this going, well, Jaffe, it's obvious. No, it's not.
Okay.
People say,
it's obvious.
Let's just break this image down briefly, okay?
Yeah. He's saying, like, people are saying, oh, it's obvious where you have to go in this room. I think it is. Maybe, again, I think it is. I'm sure, like, as I said, many people also realize where you have to go. Let's see what he tries to defend. Or
let me bring up my Photoshop tools, because, you know, I'm a good fucking artist. Where are my tools at? Okay, look at this shit. Let me bring up...
iced coffee for the win, guys.
Okay. People looking at this saying, well, Jaffe, you should know... Here are the things people are telling me. This is an enemy. It's hard to tell in a still shot. It's like, well, there's an enemy up there. You should shoot it. Why? There is... Let me explain to you. There are a number of areas, of rooms, where there are enemies on other sides of the wall that I can see and I can't shoot. Why suddenly, magically, should I know that this particular thing is breakable? There's nothing.
So he's going to keep going into more detail. So, and I mentioned before that yes, there are enemies on the other side of this wall, and you'll see that in other areas of the game. So but that does not mean that everywhere you see there's an enemy on the other side of the wall, there's a shootable block. In this situation, I would say it definitely is an indicator that, well, how else would you get up there? But now here's the thing that he's not talking about. If you go back and watch my old video, maybe I'll get like a screenshot right here. So it's not just the enemy on the other side of the wall. There are enemies on the ceiling, like right, if you can see my mouse, right here. There's enemies crawling on the ceiling. And this is what I said in the last video, that like, how else would you kill this enemy? If you go and shoot the enemy, just like every other person that was streaming or playing this game on YouTube or Twitch, whatever, you'll probably hit those blocks and reveal them. That's how this was designed. That like they expect you to do, and we'll see this. I'll show again how it's like he doesn't know the L button exists, and he never uses the aiming feature. He won't use it. So right here, like in my other video, to kill the enemy on the ceiling that he's not mentioning, he jumps and shoots straight ahead, like as if he's playing a Mega Man game. No wonder you never saw that these blocks are breakable, because it's like you forgot the L trigger, it didn't exist. Like, if you actually aimed at that enemy and shot, most likely you probably would have hit one of those blocks and said, oh, look. So it's not just the enemy on the other side of the wall. And it's the enemy that's right there on the ceiling. Like, come on. He's not showing it here, so that's why people watching that video will be like, oh, I guess you're right. But no, there actually was an enemy on that ceiling. They want you to shoot it, and then maybe that would reveal the blocks. But also, there's this. Watch.
Thing about this that says it's breakable. Let me give you a hint. Out of everything on this floor, and by the way, this area right here is what was breakable. Everything on this floor, this looks like an opening, right? But the minute, and so does this, the minute you try to jump through or shoot through that and your missile hits solid object and nothing happens, you go, okay, well, that's not the solve, right? Because
I love that part. That's not the solve. The solve. I'm going to have to use that more often. The solve.
It's clearly, it looks like I can get up there, but I can't. Okay, let me move on. Why in the fuck, after learning that, which is probably the first thing most people would do,
no.
Would I then go, oh, you know what I should do? Even though the game has trained me that enemies can be on other sides of walls that I can't hit, and even though clearly the obvious visual cueing of being able to go up, I can't get through, let me just randomly shoot at some object that has no sense that it is damaged or able to be broken. It looks like every other fucking wall.
All right, so one thing I will say is that, yes, those areas actually, now that I look at it, and I'm looking at, like, just looking at it now, they do almost appear to be like little doors or something. I think, like, even like right here, it kind of looks like a trap door. You know, that's pretty observant of him right now, like, post everything else. Like, yeah, they kind of do look like they would be like an opening or something. But now, for him to say that, like, well, I'm getting a little mixed up here. So he's saying that, well, I shot them first, nothing happened. I guess I'll just move on. Well, I'm just curious why. Like, wouldn't the process of elimination maybe pop in your head? Like, okay, I didn't. I shot like I shot here, nothing happened. I shot here, nothing happened. Well, if you notice, this area is almost like a ladder, like it kind of like a not pyramid. Right below where he is, or where Samus is standing, it's kind of like a ladder-like structure that goes right here, right where the breakable block, the breakable area is. And he's saying, well, I shot here, nothing happened, which I don't think he did anyway. He's just trying to, again, he's making that argument post, like, everything else. Like, he never shot that. He's just saying that now to try to act like, well, you would never know to shoot this. But, like, the thing is, like, if you shot here and shot here, what's stopping you from shooting here as well? Plus, look at this whole area. Like, again, I mentioned in my last video, like, doesn't this kind of look like these ladders kind of, it goes right here. This would be the area that if this wall wasn't there, it would make sense that you would hop here, hop here, hop up here. But there's a wall here. By process of elimination, why wouldn't you shoot it? And that's not even included the fact that, again, there's an enemy on the wall. This like the lava like window right here, like everything seems like this area right here might, like, it's just suspicious. So the fact that he's trying to say like, oh, I would never know to shoot right here because these look like doors, which I'm only noticing just now. It's so. I'm sorry, Dave. Like, that's not a good argument. Maybe just for you, but you can't make it seem like everyone else thinks this way. You were in the minority of players who were thinking this way, and you're the only person I've heard that actually said this. Like, gosh. Oh, man.
Let me just randomly do that. And lo and
it's not
makes
random.
it clear there's a secret room up there. No, it doesn't.
Okay, now it talks about the room layout, like on the map.
It doesn't. Look at the fucking map. The map, I mean, we're taking this apart. If you were taking a fucking design class or you were trying to get a job in design, this is what it is. So if this is not your cup of tea, you probably ain't watched this deep into the video. You see this little area right here? Even if this was a solid room by itself, yes, it would identify itself as a secret room or an isolated room, and I would maybe go, how do I get in there? Maybe eventually I unlock a teleport warp or some such shit. I don't fucking know. But the fact that there's a hallway leading out and the map continues off to the right, like if I run my character off to the right, ultimately, you know, the screen will change and I'll be in a different room. Well, why would I assume that getting into this room doesn't come from over here and I run this way into that room, right? So the map doesn't help at all. And then here's my favorite one. This is my favorite one. People say,
Tell me your favorite.
People talk about this right here. Let me show you this real fast. People talk about this right here. They're like, well, Jaffe, the game tells you. This is what the game.
I think I skipped something. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. Anyway, so now he's asking, or he's trying to make the argument that, okay, well, how will I know that I can't come from the other side of the map to get into that room? Like, nothing is indicating that this is, like, again, like, I'm sorry, buddy, like, let's even just say you would assume, like, oh, okay, I can come from the other side to get into that room. For what, another dead end? Let's just be serious here. Like, let's just say you can go around somewhere, and then you reach that room by coming through that little corridor right there, like right around here, whatever. I wish I could zoom in. He had it all zoomed in nicely. Now I can't find it again. Oh, here it is. Here we go. So, like, if he's trying to say, like, oh yeah, like, why can't I just come in from this side of the room? Okay, but for what reason? Like, again, like, I understand that you might think that, like, at first glance, well, nothing says, like, this goes into this room. But look, even, like, right here. Remember how I mentioned it's kind of like a ladder? Like, you hop up. It kind of makes it seem like you kind of are getting pointed upwards to this room. And this door right here is locked. I think at one point he does say, well, I can go this way. No, you can't. It's a locked door. You can't go that way. And you might think, whoa. Or if he's really going to try to say, well, you could come from the right side to the left, you're just making these random assumptions to defend the fact that, well, yeah, you could. There's nothing like saying that this is how you're supposed to go. You can come from the right side. Like, no, Dave, no,
room?
No.
Well, why would I assume that getting into this room doesn't come from over here and I run this?
So now this is where he starts talking about the tutorial and how this is probably the biggest crock. I'm gonna curse now. This is the biggest crock of shit. Oh my god, this is hysterical.
Right here.
So,
let
the
me show
tutorial.
you this real fast. People talk about this right here. They're like, well, Jaffe, the game tells you. This is what the game tells you earlier on in the game. Hold R to ready missiles and press Y to fire. Okay, fair enough. Some blocks can be destroyed only by using specific weapons. Now, when they tell you this, this is what they show you. This is a block, right? It looks like a block. It's a block. We know what the word block means. Maybe it's sloppy translation. Now watch this.
So right there, this is important. He clearly indicates right there. The game does tell you here's a block. So they're pretty much doing a good job defining what a block is right there. See that little missile block? It's defined. That's a block. I think it sounds like he's pretty on board with that, right? Now
you do that, and you go into the next section. Now, some destructible blocks are hidden. Well, these have suddenly started looking like everything else, right? This no longer looks like a block I need to destroy. It just looks like the level. But fine, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Some destructible blocks are hidden. If you run into a dead end, try shooting at your surroundings. Striking some blocks with missiles may reveal how to destroy them. So this is a cover your ass line that probably came up after play testing and focus testing revealed some of these areas in the game to be a problem, and they didn't have time to fix it, and they said, well, let's solve it with this.
He actually thinks that the Mercury Steam wrote that as a cop-out to be like, oh crap, people are going to have a hard time with this. No! That's like as if they made the game just like Super Metroid where there were no instructions, and then, people are gonna have a hard time with this. We better do this as like a cop-out. Or a cover your ass. No, this is what I was talking about. This is how modern games are, where they do at least, they're not hand-holding, but they're teaching you how to play the game. It's not a cop-out. They're literally saying, if you come to a dead end, we're teaching you, start shooting, with your beam or your missiles, and it'll probably reveal a block that's breakable. What's so hard to understand about that?
This is our get out of jail free card. The term blocks is very confusing. Then you're talking about I guess these are hidden blocks.
This is why I wanted you to remember when he excuse me. This is why I wanted you to remember when he started earlier. He read the instructions about how some blocks are breakable, and when we saw that missile block. So clearly, the definition of a block is given, right? And now he's saying, well, the definition of blocks is very confusing. What are you talking about? They just showed you what a block was. And right here, they're saying that the block is hidden. Clearly, it's hidden. Do you see a breakable block immediately? No, because it's hidden. I'm sorry. It's as if he's clearly reading something and then just acting as if it is so, vague and, confusing. What?
If you go back, newsflash players, all these are hidden blocks. So basically what you're...
Yeah! What's hard to grasp about that? And this is not just a random room. You are guided to this room. It says, if you come to a dead end, consider shooting things. Shooting some walls, and you might reveal a path. And he even said, again, as his, stupid argument, well, I would shoot those things. So then you're admitting that if you came to a dead end, you would consider shooting those spots right there. So you do have the brain power to think, if you come to a dead end, I'll start shooting some places to see if it's breakable and a path opens up. So you admit that you would, well, now you're admitting you would do that. But because you didn't shoot the right spot, you're trying to make it seem well, that's super confusing. I'm sorry. Am I the only person? Am I the last sane person on Earth? Come on.
You're really defining as a hidden block as anything in the game that's destructible, that doesn't look destructible, you'll call a hidden block. And that way you can get out of jail free with this fucking thing.
Again, he's trying to say, every hidden block in the game is, somehow, super confusing, and this is our get out of jail free card. No, they just... It's written right there in the tutorial, and you forgot. That's as simple as that. I mentioned that in my last video. Just admit it, Dave, that you and again, you're in the minority of players who probably forgot this part of the tutorial, and you came to a dead end and you didn't know what to do. It's simple as that. And I'm not trying to criticize you for being like a bad player and you'd have to get good, even though in some ways, like I mentioned before, yeah. But this is just simply you forgot. Admit it. You forgot that you can like shoot blocks that are hidden when you come to a situation just like this. And it is just like it. Look, you come to a room, or you come to a section where the room continues and there's a wall in the way. And the game tells you some blocks are hidden, start shooting your surroundings to find them. Just like this. And that room in like the lava area is like the exact same situation, except it's a ceiling, not a wall. Because the room clearly continues above you, and there's enemies on the wall that the game expects you to the game would expect you to shoot, and maybe you'll hit the wall as well, and then like, oh look, the wall is breakable. It's hysterical,
right? But let's go beyond that, because here's the real problem with that. If you don't know Metroid, this is one area of Metroid. Now, by the time when I was playing this, I probably had about this much unlocked, which is like maybe almost a third of this area unlocked.
You're right. He got I would say, yeah, you maybe have a third of the area unlocked. But let's just say right now, this is literally like the full. I think this is all of Arteria being revealed. This is like a walkthrough, whatever. But so what you're saying, so don't let him confuse you. What you're seeing right now is not what he unlocked. It's a much smaller portion of the map. It's still pretty big, but it's not the entire map. Like, literally, imagine a third of that. That's what he has explored already. But I'm not sure if he's trying to trick you. It's not the entire map of Arteria that he has uncovered. It's literally a third. So you might have to try to picture it with your mind. It's not all of that. It's a third of that. So he doesn't have as many areas to go. And again, the game guides you to that room. You really, you can backtrack and go to all the other rooms, but, like, it's not like there's 50 other areas, like, or 50 other paths that you can take. It's, like, no.
Locked, right? And then the game has like 5 massive sections or 6, 7 massive sections like that, maybe more. No, it's like 6 or 7. So what the player wants me to do, what the player thinks is of value for me to do, is understand the difference, understand what a dead end is. Okay, so does anything in this image, motherfucker, look to you like a dead end? Right? I'm not trapped in a room that's filling up with water and I'm like, oh shit, let me just try shooting at the walls. I can exit to the right.
No, you can't. Right there. So he's trying to find a dead end. Well, sounds like a dead end's where you come to the end of a room or the end of something and I can't go any further. That, to me, that's how, I mean, I'm not going to go look up a definition on the internet. To me, a dead end is when you come to some kind of a room or a location and you can't go any further. That's a dead end. So this, to me, is a dead end. He can't, like he says, like,
I can exit to the left.
You can, but that's where you came from. You can't go to the right. You literally, again, are guided to this room and it is a dead end. You can't go any further. So the game tells you if that happens, maybe shoot your surroundings. I promise you that the room that he's talking about, it's here on the map, the little like red area right here, that is one of the doors that are powered up by lava or thermal energy, which you haven't done yet. It's closed. Like you can't go that way. If you could, then you wouldn't have gotten stuck here in the first place, and you wouldn't be ranting on the internet about it.
I think I can even go down and slide under this thing and
yeah, you can go down and slide, but it's still a dead end. You're just going in like the room is a dead end, except the fact, Dave, that this is a dead end. It's not that hard to grasp.
And I can go out this way or something. I don't remember this, but there's like at least 2 exits in this room.
Yes, but you didn't uncover it yet. You uncovered the dead end. It's like you came to this room, and there is no. Technically, when you first come to that room, there's only one exit so far. The one you came at, the one that you just came from. The other exit is, as you would learn, is up in that corner where that little like where the room is. If you go through the ceiling, that's the other exit until you can eventually unlock that red door. So, like again, am I the last sane person on this planet?
It's not a dead end. This is not a trap, a booby trap. This is just,
Oh, so that's what he's defining a dead end as if like you go with, like, you fall into a room and then, oh, it's filling up with water. You got to do something before you die. Like, no, that's not a. I mean, if that's his definition of a dead end, I mean, again, I feel like a dead end is when you come to is when you can't go any further. That's a dead end. It's not like a booby. It doesn't have to be a booby trap. Like, again, I don't know why he's defining it like that. So if you fall into a room and, oh no, it's filling up with lava, now I'll just start shooting anywhere in like a panic mode. That to you, that's a dead end. I think it might fall into the category of a dead end, but I think it's just more defined as like a booby trap or a death trap. I don't know.
So you're basically telling me that I'm supposed to look at this map and go, out of all of these rooms, these hundreds of rooms, think about what you're saying. There's exploration to be done to help you advance. There is upgrading your character to get different abilities to help you advance. There are puzzles to solve to help you advance.
Yes.
There are enemies you have to kill to help you advance.
Yes.
And there is map reading. Like, geez, I'm stuck. Oh, shit, right, I haven't explored this section to help.
I agree with everything. Right now, I agree with everything he's saying. Yes, that's exactly what the game is telling you to do.
You advance. And now, if I get stuck in a room, there's also, you could just shoot everything. So, by the way, there's like 6 or 7 ways to advance. There's hundreds of rooms. There are rooms that don't even look like nothing in the world would indicate that this is one of the rooms where that tactic should be used. Because,
okay, so I agree with everything he said up until this point. Like, yes, he just pretty much defined Metroid perfectly, or at least the Metroidvania genre perfectly. I'm not going to argue with that, where if you do find an area that you haven't explored yet, or like, oh look, here's a door I haven't opened up yet, yeah, that's kind of how the game, like, that's how you are supposed to progress, because this is a game where, like, unlike other Metroid games, like, they really don't show you, like, where to go. There are no, like, like a Metroid Fusion, for example, where you actually are given, like, a point on the map, like, go here, or, and that was one of the more linear Metroid games, kind of like, and the same goes for Other M. Or in Samus Returns, the other Metroid Mercury Steam game, there were ways, like, you can actually get, like, little pinpoints on the map that say, here's where the Metroid is, to go kill it. This game doesn't have that. It's just like Super Metroid, which a lot of people really enjoy. There's really no hand-holding. You have to look at the map and see, where haven't I explored yet? It makes the game, and that makes the game super non-linear in a way. So, everything he says is true. You come to the room, and now you hit a dead end. Yes, the next option is to start shooting blocks, just like the game told you. Like, again, well, but then that's where he just draws the line and says, "Whoa, this is completely unacceptable." Like, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about?
There's nothing in the world that indicates that you're stuck in this room.
You were stuck in the room. What are you talking about? You were stuck in the room. And then you turned around because it was a dead end. Like, again, like, I'm not sure if maybe he's not thinking properly. Like, I don't know.
This is the room where the solution happened to be, because my stream told me. But this room was surrounded by other similar rooms that didn't look unique and didn't look like areas needed to be shot to advance. So don't fucking tell me the problem here is me, and that, oh, yeah, the game told you that when you're stuck, you need to fucking, shoot things. No, it was poorly written. The definition of block is vague at best.
Again, like, where is this coming from? You just, early on, you mentioned how, okay, the game defines what a block is. But now you're saying, oh, well, it's vague. Like, no, you're catching yourself in you're basically just catching yourself in your own inconsistencies with these stupid arguments.
And most importantly, in the context of the whole game, which is all these fucking maps and shit, I was in no dead-end situation. There was no indication that room I was in was the sort of room that needed that kind of dealing with. Come the fuck on. Let me just tell you.
Like, no, like, again, now I'm going in circles, but yeah, it led you to that room. All right. I'm done. Now I'm going in circles because he's going in circles. I'm going in circles now. Like, stop. I made my point. The final thing I want to talk about is this is actually a video where he actually was playing Metroid again, assuming it actually loads.
if you guys are saying it's hand-holding to think it's weird,
Alright, so he fights the boss. Now watch this.
yeah, this is where I actually gave up, though. Because, I mean, I killed him, but because my controller for fighting this guy was just such shit.
If this is infuriating anybody else as much as it's infuriating me, then again, like, this is a scene where it's like, Dave, you just have to get better at the game. But here's the biggest argument. He's trying to, like, in this video, he's arguing, like, oh, look, like, these controls are just so terrible. Look how I'm shooting, and I'm like, as I try to shoot up, I'm like, my character's moving back and forth. So unless I, like, properly get the controller shooting straight up, as you saw when he's shooting the missiles, oh, then I'll do a good job, and I'll aim accurately upwards. Like, but this is the thing. It's like, dude, you're not using the aim button. Like, that's why the button exists. So that way, because I'm sure you saw there were plenty of opportunities where he could have actually just in a corner of the room, like, hit the L button, aimed at the eyeball guy, the central unit, and shot it. Like, he's just not. He's simply not doing that. That's not the controller's fault.
See that? I assure you, I'm not trying to run on this pad. I'm trying to...
I know, but I know you're not doing that, Dave, but that's why the L button exists.
Stay in place. That is...
See, right there, look at all the, like, I know it's like only like a couple seconds, but like right there, if you just like stood right where you are and held the L button while aiming up, you can get a bunch of missiles shooting off. Just like you did earlier, only that was like him being like very lucky because he wasn't holding the L button aiming up.
But not what I'm trying to do.
Like, see, right there, he stopped shooting. Like, I mean, like, even like right there, he could have like at least tried shooting at the thing. I know there's a laser. I know there's lasers and the rings coming at you, but like right there, you had so many opportunities just to like just stop for a second and aim, hit the L button and aim at the boss and shoot it. I just had to show that this is actually him playing the game, okay? This is why it's infuriating when he tries making the argument that the controller is bad. You're not even using the aim button, which is how you're supposed to shoot things. Like, how would you expect to shoot any... Like, let's just say, for example, any of the, like, the guns or wherever these things are shooting out the lasers and the rings. Let's say those were, like, shootable enemies, which the actual ring projectiles are shootable. But, like, let's say you were to shoot those things. How would you expect to shoot those things? By jumping and shooting, or trying to like run in the diagonal direction and shooting them? That's why the L button exists in this game. That's why it was great that Mercury Steam included this in Samus Returns, that you can actually hit the button and aim in a 360 like arc. You can aim anywhere you want to shoot anywhere, and you're not doing that. All right, I'm done with this. I'm getting so. I had to make this video. Again, this is... I know I'm probably, like, way late to the party on this, but I had to argue... I had to just make my counter-arguments, again, to David Jaffe's, like, defenses for why he thinks the game's bad. I think it's hysterical, and I hope you guys find it hysterical, too. So, again, for all my Metroid video game fans, I appreciate it, you guys watching this. Yeah... I'll probably make a few more Metroid videos at this point, because obviously the last video got a lot of views, so thank you guys for enjoying that. Yeah, and I guess with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy, and go play Metroid Dread. It's a great game.